Hey, Darren, what are you doing?
Just writing an essay.
Who's writing it?
Well, I am, obviously.
Are you sure you wrote it?
Maybe.
Or did you use an AI?
That's what we're talking about, right?
ChatGPT has just been released last week, and oh boy,
It's getting a lot of coverage right now, right?
That I have almost every other TikTok of mine is someone using that AI in just wildly amazing ways.
Well, you know what? I'm seeing it on Twitter. I'm seeing it on Facebook because I'm still a boomer. I'm seeing people talking about it on almost every single social media platform. It's big. Like teachers are talking about this right now in a big way.
Professors.
Like it's amazing. So why don't you let everybody know what this is?
Okay, so if you haven't been on social media in the past week, what is OpenGPT? So it is a new AI released by OpenAI. They're the company that also did DALL-E.
Okay.
Put in a prompt and it will generate you an image based on your prompt.
Right.
Very cool, very powerful. Although I think Midjourney is better, just from what you can do with it. So they released this AI chatbot where you can put in commands, you can put in suggestions and questions, and it will, through its AI, generate for you a unique response or information or code or options or questions for you dynamically.
Right.
And I've been playing with it.
And it'll generate, if you want, an essay on any topic, right?
Yeah, I think that's most of the TikToks that I've seen recently, and I have played with it. I have played with, what if I put this prompt in about online safety? Well, there's 3 paragraphs of like online safety topics.
And how was it? Like when you read it, did it make a lot of sense?
Oh, it made sense. I would say it was simplistic, but functionally it made sense.
So therefore, although it was simplistic in nature, once it's generated, you can add the fluff into it, right, to make it better. So rather than it taking you 2 hours to write it, say maybe it only takes you 5 minutes.
But that's not it. Now I am not a skilled coder myself, but I've seen skilled coders write in a prompt like, make me a snake game. You know those games with a snake, you have to like not go across
Battle
your tail.
snake.
Yeah. It generates the code in Python for you.
But I was reading somewhere that a lot of this code that is being generated is not necessarily correct. Have you tried it with the code?
I have. I generated a snake game. And
Of course it did.
why not? And it works. It works.
Oh.
I mean, have I seen TikToks and videos of where it wasn't perfect? Of course I did.
Yeah.
But I've seen way more videos and examples of working code generated by this AI.
Yeah.
But that's not it. I saw someone making and I tried it, making a choose your own adventure storybook.
Oh.
So basically you type in a prompt, make me a choose your own adventure story about a hero.
Fairies, goblins, knights.
And then it will generate you a story. And then at the end, it'll be option 1, option 2, option 3. You choose the option. It continues the story.
So where I'm seeing this, like it was amazing what I read. There was this high school student. I'm not going to mention what high school. And he is like the trainer on the team. He's not the coach. He kind of he's not one of the players, but he's one of the people who sit to take stats on what the other teammates are doing. Well, he's actually created a small business of his. And what he does is the athletes, what they are doing is they're hiring them because they're having to do homework, right? Where teachers are saying, you got to write this essay for me. And this essay has to be on this topic. So he's actually using this program to write essays for the athletes, the players. Yeah. So they're paying him money and he's taking that, creating essays and then giving them this AI generated essay. And then those students are handing it in as their homework.
Yeah, I believe that student was probably using Writer. So there has been for quite a few years now, AI programs that help assist you to write articles. Yeah. I think that student is going to go out of business.
Yeah. Well,
because now this free Open AI chatbot can do it for free for those students who hired that student.
Right. But those free chatbots, number one, you have to know about. Number two, is it fairly simple to use?
I haven't used it.
I
think everyone has heard something about it in the past week.
I can guarantee you all students have heard about it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But is it simple to use? Like you just go in, you go to the website, and then you just push whatever button you want, and you say what you want, and it does it?
Yeah, pretty well. Obviously, you can expand and refine it, where I think is what we'll talk about in a bit about the skill gaps that are going to be created from that.
But what about copyright issues? Like, is there a copyright violation? Like, if all of a sudden, like plagiarism is a good example. Like, one of the big deals, what was used in the past is that teachers noticed that a lot of students were just screen capturing stuff online, copying it, pasting it, creating it, and plagiarizing, right?
Yep.
Plagiarism. And they would use specific topics, like Viper was a good example, where if a student handed in a paper, they could scan it with Viper looking for any copyright infringements. But so I guess that wouldn't apply to this because it's not
its own generated response from sources.
So how does a teacher know?
They won't. I've actually seen some TikToks from teachers responding to they're going to implement policies in the classroom where there cannot be take-home essay assignments. Essay assignments have to be completed in the classroom because if you take it home, you can just AI generate your essay.
But what's to stop a student from doing the same thing on their laptop in the classroom?
Well, a teacher can probably see it.
Kids are getting pretty good at hiding stuff.
Or if they're in a computer lab where all the screens are shown to the teacher, right? At least you have some extra control, or as a school, you can just block the OpenAI web address. I mean, of course, VPNs and proxies and whatnot. Sure, okay, I got that. But I mean,
or I do it on my cell phone, so I do it on my cell phone. Once it's done on the cell phone, I copy it, paste it to my laptop, and now I just turn it in that way. Like I can think of a variety of different ways, right?
Paste into your Google Doc account,
yeah,
which I'm sure the school allows Google Doc.
Yeah, most schools do.
So you just share it to a Google Doc account from your phone through OpenAI, and then there you go.
And a lot of times, the students may already know that they're going to have to do an essay on a specific topic. So proper pre-planning prevents poor performance. They do it the day before, and they go to class, and poof, it's already in there.
Yeah. So I've seen some news headlines.
Let's talk about ethics on this, though.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Sure.
Like ethical. I personally, I don't think it is. Like, I don't think if you're supposed to do something and you're supposed to generate it yourself, is it ethical or even moral to have this AI program do it for you and claim that you're the one who did the work?
I don't see. Whenever there's new disruptive technology, there's always this argument. But, I would refer back to the introduction of the calculator.
Oh, here we go. He uses this, and he's got a point to a degree.
Look at when the calculator was first being introduced into classrooms.
Yeah.
These same arguments were being presented. Like, no, you have to actually do the math yourself. You actually have to go in and do all the math and do it. Or graphing calculators, right? When those came in, there was a huge controversy around, well, you have to do it all yourself. Well, now this calculator does it for you. And what's the purpose of school?
To learn.
To prepare you for the work environment.
Right. But if another good example is there was an app a couple of years ago, Photomath is a good example, right? Yeah. Where, you got a math equation, you open up Photomath on your phone, you point your camera at it. Photomath uses an AI generated software where it would actually figure out the answer, give you the answer, and show you how it did it, right? So students were using that. So as a result of that, teachers put things into place to prevent that from happening in the classroom. This is kind of the same idea, right?
But if the whole purpose of school is to prepare a student for the business environment to be an hourly waged employee, I mean, businesses are going to try their best to maximize the work effectiveness of employees.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason. I mean, the typewriter got replaced by the word processor.
Yeah.
Right. With the typewriter, you'd have to, if you made a mistake, you have to go back, white out, go over it. With the word processor, employees can get their job completed way more faster, which means the employee can be put on more tasks. As a business, you're getting more out of the employee.
But again, what ifs, right? But if you're getting used to having this AI program generate this work for you in the final product for you, what happens now if you don't have access to it because the internet's gone dead?
What if you don't have a calculator?
Yeah, then you have to do it you have to do it hard way, right? So
what if you don't have a computer?
Well, that's my point.
How, you have to go back to a typewriter?
Right.
And then for you to get your work completed, it's going to take you days compared to hours, which businesses are not going to want.
Like I've heard this within the medical community as well. Doctors who are going to med schools are saying, why do we have to remember all this stuff when I got a phone and I can go, hey, Google Doc, can you please tell me, does this medication interfere with this medication, right? That's
fair. I mean, as the medical environment grows and more knowledge is created, a single doctor can't know everything.
Yeah. I mean, but again, I get back, is it morally and ethically okay to do that when you're expected in a classroom environment?
I think people expect their doctors to know everything. People expect, if I'm paying you money and you're a professional, I expect you to know everything. That is the expectation and demand of consumers.
Yeah,
you have to be the expert. And if you don't know something, you're no longer relevant.
Yeah, there's just something that's just not sitting with me, right? And maybe it's because I'm the boomer, right?
Yep.
You're the millennial, I'm the boomer. It's just that, if you're given a topic to write about a topic on, well, then you should be writing it. You shouldn't be getting a program to do it for you and then turning it into
what's the difference between you actually going online and finding an article about the topic compared to just getting an AI to do it for you?
Yeah, but
what's the difference?
Because I actually have to write it now. And if I'm going to quote something from the article I read, I have to cite it, right? So you're learning a variety of different things, but you were just telling me that these programs are getting to the point now where you can write, say, citation, and it'll actually find the citation for you.
So I think that's where I think potential skill comes into play.
Yeah.
Where I've seen some comments about future jobs. It's the job requirement's going to be: do you have AI familiar ability to put proper parameters in? Because depending on what you put into the AI, will generate wildly different responses. So a part of it's going to be think of it like Google Booleans. Right. Google Booleans, where you put parameters in Google search to get more specific results.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a potential skill that is going to be leverageable for employees in the future, because as businesses are going to be using these AIs, I've seen some social media marketers say within the past week, oh yeah, I did my week's worth of social media content creation within hours using the AI.
Yeah.
And now I have the entire week free.
Right.
Because the work they would have had to do is go in, write it all themselves, and copyright it. It did it for them in hours.
Right.
So, which from a business perspective, you can get more out of that employee.
But at least they knew how to do that before they were using this technology, right? Like they had an actual physical ability to do that.
But now that
my fear is that if kids in schools are using this at front end of their education learning process, they're not developing the skill in order to be able to do that if the AI was not available.
True. But what about the skill to use a calculator or build a... Does a student know how calculators work? No. Does a student know how the word processor works?
No.
Right? So it's part of just our human development is that do people in cities know how to hunt for their own food? If grocery stores were to go away, people would be in a troubled situation. Right? So, and that's just a part of our human... We're trying to maximize our ability as best as we can.
But to what degree? Because we're going to have to give up something, right?
Yeah.
Like by doing this, are we reducing the ability for younger people to become creative thought and being able to write their own creativity, where we're allowing the AI to do that creativity for us? So therefore, are we stunting that ability?
Isn't
right?
the creativity in learning what to enter into the AI?
That's a part
because
of it.
You have to know how it works and therefore enter the right parameters to get what you want from it.
I think that's a part of it. But now what happens if all of a sudden you have to go into a good example in policing? I know that to be hired, you have to go in. A part of the process is you have to do a test. A part of that test is being able to write out something on that test, right? It's basically you have to write a mini essay. So if you don't know how to do that because you've depended upon AI to do it for you, you're hooped.
Yeah, but isn't that with any kind of, like, a student going through high school does not have the opportunity to apply to they do not have the skills to do every single job available to them.
I get that. But
so I guess it depends on what a student's determination for the future is.
Yeah.
Right? If you determine your future is you're not going to use that, if you're not going to go into law enforcement, you're not going to go into the medical industry, wouldn't it make more sense that for AI, students using AI to do work leaves more time available for them to learn more important things? We know it's been talked about for ages that students at schools should learn how taxes work. Okay, you reduce the amount of work for students in doing creative writing assignments because this AI does that, and now there's time for them to learn how to do their taxes. Isn't that a little more valuable?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because this has been an argument I've been seeing happening. Like we're seeing a huge decrease in the number of people applying to colleges and universities now, right?
Yep.
And a lot of them are saying, like, why do I have to, like, there was one posting just recently where a university prof said, hey, listen, this is the first class where I didn't have anybody in my classroom. Like, nobody was there. I was doing my lecture, but because it's being recorded, they're watching it recorded online. They're not coming to class anymore. It's amazing to see what's going on. But to your point, I do think it's causing education to look at education differently, right?
Yeah.
Like there's been a disruption of what's going on. And I started to see this several years ago when it came to trades. Like when I was in high school, you didn't have the ability to really take trades unless it was woodworking, auto, or metal shop, right? But today, the trades is a big deal, right? So a lot of students who are making a decision that they don't want to go to college, they don't want to go to university, they want to get into trades, being a tradesperson, rather than focusing on the traditional courses being taught at a high school, they're concentrating more on courses that are preparing them to get into the trades and joining co-op programs now. Like, so I see what you're saying, but let's say I want to be doctor or a rocket scientist. Well, then I need to know physics. I need to know all that kind of stuff. Chemistry, right?
So do you need to know all the stuff that's taught at high school? Wouldn't it be better for you to learn how taxes work that everyone needs to file?
Yeah, I think that's a part of it. And, although I'm in grade 8 and I think, I want to be a doctor, things change over the years. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. When I was in first year university, my first year was more of a global approach to what is being offered. It wasn't until years 3 or 4 that you started to narrow in to pick where you want to go, right?
Plus, you're like me. I knew exactly what I wanted, and I chose my elective specifically for what I wanted.
But therefore, isn't what the topics being taught in school right now kind of that way inclined? They're created to give the teens basic understandings of things that are going on that may help them focus where they want to go. However, I think you're right. Is there certain skills that we should be teaching teens, like taxes is a good example, and issues surrounding that, or investments, talking about that kind of stuff. Well, yeah, I think, but what do you give up?
Yeah. There's only a certain amount of time in high school students can spend to learn.
So that's your argument with this, is that it reduces the amount of time a student needs to do to write an essay for them to concentrate on something else?
Potentially. I think that's the potential. But again, is that going to be needed in the jobs of the future? And I think isn't the whole point of school is to prepare students for jobs of the future. I think schools will often say, "Oh yeah, it's about expanding human knowledge and and all that kind of stuff." But really, it's mostly about jobs of the future.
So, are we getting to the point then that if you're in university and you want to have this program write a thesis for you, it can do that? If you put in the proper parameters.
I think it's limited. I think if you're skilled enough, and that there's a skill, if you're skilled enough to put the proper prompts into the system, you can get a good amount of the way. Do I think it is nuanced enough to do a full thesis? I've yet to see an example of that. Is it possible? Maybe in 2 years when the system gets more smarter.
So therefore, because it's not possible at this point in time, then don't you think it's important that the student understand how to create a thesis?
How many kids at high school are going to know how to do a thesis? And some universities, you have a thesis route or a project route.
That's true.
Right? Not every university program has a thesis. And again, thesis, we're talking about like a master's degree. At that point, you've already invested and you focus on what you're doing, that you need to know the skills you need to do. If we're looking at just first year university and grade 11 and 12.
And there are, like when I was in university, I don't know about you, but I did have to hand in essays on specific topics, right? So what I'm hearing from you and what I'm hearing from a number of teachers, like there's another teacher that we actually work with at a university, and she's getting quite vocal over this as well, saying, how are we knowing that these things that are being handed in by our students at a university level is actually their own work and not an AI generated? Well, you don't.
Well, a lot of businesses are doing that. Like I said earlier, there are people who write blogs and the whole purpose is content creation.
Right.
And their job now is putting prompts into AIs. So when you go online, you read a news article or you read an essay or on a topic you're interested in. Do you know if the author of that blog post you are reading, did they type every word into that? Did they use Writer? That is, I would say, the precursor to this, which a lot of people do to get more ideas for what they want to write about. Or did they have the whole AI itself write the article for you?
Yeah. So for me, because I do a lot of writing, as you know, for our company, I like doing the research because it creates a nuance. It educates me. And so when I write things out, it causes me to think critically about what I'm writing for me to fully understand what it is I'm talking about.
But that's the responsibility of the job that you have. Your responsibility is to be this social media educator, digital literacy educator in order to help understand technology, the pros and cons of it, and to bring critical analysis.
Right.
If your job is to just write an article to get hits on, does it matter if you know the ins and outs? You got to write a catchy title. There's actually title generators now.
So is this more of a bubblegum approach to content creation? You know what I mean by bubblegum approach, right? Where you don't have to put a lot of thought into it. You get this AI program to do it. So to me, it's more like a bubblegum approach to content creation.
Is it a quality versus quantity approach, right? Because you can spend hours making this awesome content, essay, video, whatever you're creating.
Kind of like what we're doing right now.
But you might get no hit.
Right.
Or do you want to take a quantity approach where you blast the internet with a ton of content where you're going to get more search hits? And if your business model is to get hits, that might be a better approach.
But I want to hear, like, put you on the spot.
Okay.
Morally and ethically, I don't think it's right. If you're given an essay to do by a teacher, I think you should be writing it yourself. Well, you shouldn't be getting an artificial program to do it for you.
Well, then you shouldn't have a word processor spell check for you or grammar check for you. And yet we take those for granted now.
Yeah, but those spell checkers they're just checking the content that I created. This program creates the content.
Yeah,
right? You know what I mean?
People have foregone the skill.
So do you think it's morally and ethically okay for a student to use this program to create an essay and turn it in, claiming it to be theirs? In fact, it was written by...
I have no idea. I don't know. But here's the thing. I don't know. I don't know. I do not have an answer. As someone who has spent time and I have invested time in researching and writing, am I biased? Probably, because, well, everyone else should do what I do.
Exactly.
But I'm trying to take the approach of, like, let's remove that. Like, I've done the work. So I understand. For me playing with the AI,
it's
in
cool.
no way could it couldn't have written the thesis I've written. Right. But that is years of focused, intentional study.
Now, there's a lot of research, as you know, coming out within the educational field saying that, homework in and of itself should be thought differently. Like, should we be doing this, right?
Yeah. So the teachers I've seen the TikTok of teachers saying, essays now have to be completed in the classroom to prevent AI usage.
I still think there's ways around that, right?
And I'm seeing students saying, well, good, because homework shouldn't be a thing. Because if a person is an hourly wage employee working for a business and they're doing work from home outside of work time and it's a requirement, they get paid for that.
Well, that's not necessarily true, right?
You're a salaried employee.
One of the things I can tell you is that a lot of businesses now, because of the internet and because of these things, there's almost an expectation that you will do things outside of the job.
And we've seen them taken to court, and we've seen them...
For sure. We're seeing that happening as well, right?
And guess what? Employees, especially the economic situation we're in right now, if they're not loyal to a business and the business is doing something unethically, lawsuits. And we've seen. And
the other thing too is that, some of the students I've been listening to as well, they're saying, hey, listen, by not having to do homework, it gives me the ability to do other things outside of school to help my development and who I am as an individual.
Maybe you want to be a filmmaker.
Maybe I can get my job now because I don't have a lot of money to go to college or university. So now I can go out and get a job, save my money. And now I'm not up to 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning also doing my homework, which means I'm not getting enough sleep, which has a negative effect on learning anyways.
Here's the stealing the bread conundrum that people always use.
Stealing the bread conundrum. That's a new one for me.
Well, I can't. There's a name for it, but it's the thought experiment where you have someone who has no money and a family they have no food.
Right.
And someone steals bread.
Right.
Is that right or wrong? So let's take this example where someone's taking care of a sick parent. They do not have the time as other students to thoroughly write out an essay, and they use an AI to write the essay so that they can take care of a sick parent and complete their work assignment. School. Is that a right or wrong thing?
Yeah, I can put this in a different perspective as well. Technically, if I break into a location, it is break and enter, right? However, what the case law has now said is that if, let's say it's the weather outside is frightful, get it? Because it's almost Christmas right now. But, and I'm homeless and I'm afraid I'm going to freeze, so I break into a place to keep myself warm. Technically, is that a break and enter? Yes, it is. Is there a defense to that to protect yourself? Yes, there is, right? So again, whatever you said, stealing the bread.
There's a name for it, but it's the thought experiment where,
kind of reminds me of Robin Hood, right? Take from the rich and give to the poor, right? So, interesting, right? Like it's really interesting. Like you say, this is a really alive issue. This and the Lenva, thing that's going on right now, right? It's really trending right now. And where I see this trending a lot is with educators. Like it's really taken off with educators right
and
now.
Students and coders.
Yeah.
I've seen some coders saying, well, there goes my job. Because you just write me code for this. I've seen some examples of people who mod games to do like add-ons, and they're using this chat AI program to code the mods. So they can expand the game world. And what about game developers potentially using this to make their game worlds more expansive?
But on a side note, AI was created by a coder, right? So therefore, coding is still relevant.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Like,
but at what level are you looking for your career? Right. If your career is to actually learn how to make AI, then sure, there are more strict requirements to get to that. But if your job is to just write a program or to make a game, then why not use it as part of? Because if you are not doing that, are your competitors doing that? And therefore, does that put you at a disadvantage? And I've seen the argument around AI because we see businesses using AI to filter job candidates.
Yes.
Is that morally, ethically okay or proper?
Yeah.
Right? So
because AI can't read intent. They don't. Yeah. They can't read.
At least at this stage.
Yeah, they can't read intent. They can't dig a little deeper into who you are as an individual. Right? It's kind of.
So as a student, if the whole point of school is to prepare me for the job future, but my job future is limited by some AI, why shouldn't a student use AI to complete their job assignment?
But do you not think that this program will start to take away critical thinking and maybe the ability for students to think more diversely on topics and then be able to take those thoughts and put them into language, be it written or be it verbal?
What about students who have struggled with different ways and modalities of learning? Right? Yeah, the traditional way of presenting your knowledge is in an essay. But we know some students struggle with written work.
Yeah.
Why not create an audio podcast or create a video project? And a lot of grade schools are allowing other methods. Even universities are allowing other methods for students to display their works of knowledge, which I think is fantastic. So
interesting. Where do you think this is going? You follow this way more closely than I do, right? Like, where do you think this is going? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think? What do you think schools are going to do as a result of this?
If I am
if we have a crystal ball,
if I'm going to look at history and other disruptive technologies like the calculator and then the graphing calculator and then video production and then looking at the typewriter and all these technologies that have replaced some skill in order to allow people to excel at other areas, to be the best version of themselves, because you as a person cannot do everything. You cannot be everything. You need to make choices on the knowledge you know and the skills you have.
Right.
So I think it's the intent of the person. If you are using this AI as an ability to expand more of yourself in order to allow you to be critical thinking in other ways, or to achieve other aspects of your life, to use it to reduce your time so you can take care of a sick parent, is that a bad thing? I mean, it's like a student who would just go on the internet and go to Cliff Notes or something.
This would be a really good topic to talk about in like a university level. What's the course I'm talking about? Not ethics, but philosophy. Like this would be.
I bet universities right now, students right now in classrooms are right now talking about this.
Oh, they got
and the various things we're talking about.
They got to be right, like because there's all kinds of philosophical streams. Like, is it ethical? Is it moral? What are we giving up? But what are we gaining by doing this? Right? Like it's like taking any kind of new technology or stuff that comes out and weighing what are the benefits worth the risks. So to me, I just think it just doesn't sit right to me where if you're given something to do, like writing an essay, you should be writing it. You shouldn't be getting an artificial intelligence program to write it.
You should be going through every word in the dictionary to make sure it's spelled correctly, because you're not going to be given a smart...
Yeah, but the difference is that even people who are very articulate, they still use spell checks because sometimes you just make mistakes. But at least I've written the essay myself and having spell check it for grammar and spelling. But I've written it, right?
What about a situation at a school where a student is given an assignment of write an essay on Napoleon, but they already know Napoleon. In their mind, they can already tell you, oh yeah, they did this. They were exiled, right? They already know that, but now they have to spend the time to write it out.
Well, I would say you got two options. You can either write it out without using the AI program, or do a video for me. Do a PowerPoint. Do a video for me to tell me what I need to know about Napoleon and be creative in how you're doing it.
And a lot of schools are doing that now.
Yeah.
And I think that could be a unique way of getting around this AI, because it's not as if the AI at this point in time can make you a PowerPoint. It can give you...
It's interesting how we talk this out, because I'm now thinking, just by you saying that, what I would be saying as a teacher, you know what? Rather than you doing an essay, I want you to do a video production for me on Napoleon.
Yeah. Now, I play with it, and the AI can give you a bit of script and a bit of direction, but it does not have the creative at this stage in time.
Right.
It cannot generate for you a audio produced, visual produced production.
But by doing that, you're also you're creating digital literacy in today's world, because now you're basically saying to the student, you need to know how to video, edit, and create and do all that kind of stuff, which is a marketable skill.
I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, I know how APA works. And
Teachers, you just got some free advice.
Sure, I know how APA works and citations, because that's the career path I've chosen. Right. But I would way more likely willing to do a video production, because my typing speed, poor. I have poor. My spouse, like, what? For me, I get like one sentence out and she's written out a whole 2 paragraphs.
Right.
So for me, I can be more effective in video production than compared to actually writing something down. Even though I know the mechanics of how to do something and the citation work.
But now the student will say, well, yeah, but I don't have the ability to do that. You know, I come from a socioeconomic family where I don't have a laptop. I don't have a camera. I can't do that kind of stuff. Well, you kind of lose the argument, though, if all of a sudden the school's supplying you with a laptop that has the software already built into it to use that for the purposes of generating that program.
But that student wouldn't have the access to the chatbot anyways.
Yeah. Interesting topic. I think these types of discussions, like you say, are going to continue on, and I think teachers are now trying to think about, okay, well, how do we get around this? Because unless you already know the writing abilities of your students, because if you know what their writing ability, because you have a starting point, because they've been with you for years, so you know how they write, and then all of a sudden you get this thing handed in, and you go, like, that's not them.
How are you going to prove it? But how are you going to prove it? You can't prove it.
Yeah, you know how you prove it? You take it and say, listen, I want you to write it for me again.
Yeah, and they would have to be like in front of them during school time, which brings to the argument that homework shouldn't exist for some people because you in a job place, you don't get paid for work outside of your hourly payment. I mean,
but if you get a student who's in the essay that they've handed in saying it's a very draconian and nebulous thought process, the first thing I would be asking as the teacher is, spell draconian, spell nebulous, and what do those words mean, right? Because if the student has never used those words before in any of their previous writings,
I probably couldn't even spell those words.
Right, but
that's why it's spell check. But that is a computer system that does it for you. So we have to take that out. So the student has to go to the dictionary and find that, which takes tons of time, which makes them less effective to learn other things. Yeah, I don't know. What is to be expected of humans in 10, 20, 50 years from now?
Right.
What is the human condition, and what's going to be expected of us?
I mean, it kind of reminds me of the current sci-fi movies are out there where you can talk to a computer and it does everything for you. Hey, Hal, do this for me, right? And it does it all for you, right? It's kind of interesting because when you think back to my parents' ages when Star Trek first created, and they had the communicator, right, where you could pull it out, and or Dick Tracy where he was talking on his watch with the camera. And we now see that in today's world, right?
Star Trek communicator, the original series, it was the handheld thing. And then the next generation, it was the badge thing.
Yeah, right.
Even that technology went even more just mind-blowing beyond that.
Right. So it's going to be interesting. Like you say, I'm hearing you say that you're quite excited about this technology and some of the things. I just think we have to kind of figure out from an educational standpoint, especially at the middle school, high school levels, how do we balance this out?
Am I excited? I am excited for the technology. Do I fear the technology's future?
Right.
I mean, we can bring in the whole Terminator idea into this if you want, but
Stuxnet.
Yeah, it was that was Skynet.
Skynet. Sorry.
Skynet.
Yeah,
Stuxnet is the nuclear virus.
That's right.
Yeah.
Stuxnet.
Which I mean, Skynet would use Stuxnet.
Could this program design a Stuxnet program?
It's possible. I mean, well, the original Stuxnet data source code, I think, is public. I mean, most systems have now detected it, but I mean, I mean, you put a virus code into there. Could the system generate that? Possibly. So, do I think we should, if I had the ability, if I were to prevent all AI from development from this point forward, it is what it is right now. There's no more development because there's a clear danger. Would I press that button?
Right.
Or would I want to push it? But again, but right now I can't control it because there's no way for you, if you are in a business situation, you have your competitor doing AI and you're not, you are at a disadvantage. So it's the Cold War race, right? Where I
got 20 nukes, so I need 20 nukes.
Exactly. You use AI, I need AI.
I think one of the benefits of this that I'm seeing is it's creating more discussions. I just hope that educators are having these types of discussions in the classroom with their kids, right? Because I think that this would really generate critical thinking, right? When you think about it.
I bet they are right now already.
I don't know if it's happening maybe at the middle school or high school level. I think it's more about, we know you guys are doing this and you better not do it because if we catch you, bad things are going to happen. Rather than having open discussions kind of like we have here to create thought, to create critical thinking, to kind of look at this a little bit deeper, right? Because that's what it should be all about. And I think the kids would be all over this, right? Like, I truly do believe that youth have a lot to offer us as adults. We adults just need to be willing to listen. We adults, we bring life experience to the table that these teens don't necessarily have. But I think on topics like this, they bring a lot to the table that I think we should be listening to and considering. So I hope that that's what's going to happen.
I did see a really interesting example of the AI. Obviously, it's not as developed at this stage to do all your work for you.
Right.
But what I did see someone do in a very creative way is use the AI to generate specific prompts on what to look for. Because with Google, you have the entire world at your fingertips.
Right.
But you have to choose what to look for in particular.
And Google also uses the filter bubble to kind of...
Yeah. So I saw someone use the AI on a topic to generate specific questions on what to narrow down on.
Can you give me an example of what you mean there?
A good example. I can't remember the example they used because I've seen so many TikToks in the last week of this stuff. But top 10 questions about online safety. And then the AI will generate you the questions. So maybe you have no experience in online safety. You don't know things about two-factor authentication. You don't know about password safety. So the AI can generate you some questions that might include those things. Gotcha. And then you can take that. A good example, like right now, my spouse, who's doing some video editing, they're using Premiere Pro. I use Final Cut. I have no idea how Premiere Pro works. But because I have the experience of actually working with video production, I know what to Google for. Like she doesn't know certain terms on how video production, like how do I do a jump cut? How do I do this in Premiere? She wouldn't necessarily know those terms to Google. Right. So I can help her, although I don't know where the buttons are on the program. Right. I know what she can Google to get the answer.
Correct. Gotcha.
Which this AI also potentially do that in a way.
Cool.
Anyways,
great discussion.
We've been here for quite a while. Let us know in the comments what you think. Are you pro or against using chat AI to give you answers, write you code, and generate ideas? Let us know in the comments. From the White Hatter team, thank you all so much. And we'll see you all next time. Stay safe, everybody.
See ya.
Bye-bye.